Technology and human inventiveness is amazing sometimes. I just think it's the most amazing thing that we can watch television and there's a commercial for this device. Put your 2 fingers here on this little bitty device, and within seconds it will tell you how your heart's working. It can describe whether we have bradycardia, our heart's moving slowly, or tachycardia, our heart's moving fast, or AFib, that great contributing factor to the danger of stroke. This little thing, KardiaMobile, just put your 2 fingers here, $89 on Amazon, we're ready to go. We can know how our hearts are every day. In fact, we can know multiple times a day. Technology is amazing. I have to tell you, I come to this pulpit at the end of this week. Quite frankly, I came to these readings with a heavy heart. This has been a tough week. It's been a tough week as we think about Afghanistan, as we think about those people fleeing for freedom, falling from a plane, as we think about those wonderful and dedicated service persons who lost their lives, and the 170 Afghanis who lost their lives in a singular act of evil. Or we don't have to go that far. We can go to dine on Westheimer and know that a friend coming from New Orleans was murdered while eating a vacation meal. Or a friend of a friend who simply went 2 Fridays ago in the evening to go pick up take-home dinner for his wife and his young children, who was murdered in a senseless act of road rage. Our hearts. Jesus tells us today, watch our hearts. It's not the externals alone. It's what's at our center. In the Jewish culture, when Jesus was speaking of our hearts, when Isaiah speaks of our hearts, Isaiah said, their hearts are far from me. He wasn't just talking about this beating instrument. It was the very core of who we are. Our heart is the center. We might say today it's more than our soul. It's our soul and our body. It's our being. It's the center and ground of our being is our heart. We have to be wary, be careful, be so careful that our hearts are healthy, that our hearts are good. Thomas Groome, a Boston College theologian, has written a book recently called Faith for the Heart. It's a description of Catholic spirituality. And he says to us, in keeping with our tradition from our Jewish faith through Christ and the apostles, through St. Augustine, that we hunger as human persons, that we hunger from the moment of our birth. We hunger. And we hunger not just for physical food. We hunger for authenticity and belonging. To be who God has called us to be filled with purpose, and to be connected. Thomas Groome goes on to describe Catholic spirituality. In these 2 words, he says, we're called to integrity and to mutuality. That is, to personal and communal living. That our hearts aren't just about ourselves, but our hearts are about ourselves and living with one another. But that mutuality, that concern for others goes not just to those within our homes, but to our spouses, our children, our parents, our extended families, our neighbors, our nation, our world, our brothers and sisters. In our culture, in our dominant Western culture, we tend to cultivate buffered hearts, hearts that are sheltered and shielded and protected and enclosed, hearts that are even often enclosed in a way that God can't pierce them. Jesus today says to us, guard your hearts. Let our hearts be watched. James says to us, in the most beautiful words, humbly welcome the word that has been planted in you and is able to save your souls. If we were to take this cardiomobile device of our spirits, we wouldn't want to check whether our spirit is fast or slow, or is it bouncing around? We'd want to know, is Jesus, is that word of life in our hearts? Because if it were, it would inform all of our reactions to the past week and the coming week and all that we encounter. Our hearts would be enlarged. We would have full hearts, active hearts. For James says to us, if our hearts are filled with that word that can save souls, then we will be doers of the word and not just hearers. Thomas Groome goes on to say that for us to have those hearts, we must not only have love, we must not only have faith, but we must have hope. And hope is the call of Christ in the end of this week, that we might hope for a world in which our sisters and brothers, that we all love one another, care for each other, raise one another, that we might look at those new members of our community, those who come to us from Afghanistan, that we might not look at them as strangers and those that we must question their motives, but as those who have come to us with nothing, having left their home in order to seek a life of freedom, a life that imitates the manner in which God has made us to be free and to love. Sisters and brothers, we will receive the Eucharist, the very Christ in our hearts today. As we prepare to leave this liturgy and we hear those words, go forth and glorify the Lord by our lives, may we know that we are called throughout this week to place our fingers on that cardiomobile device that measures souls and to ask, is Jesus far or near? And how's our hope?
Please like, subscribe, or comment below.